Today we're going to answer a commonly asked question among triathletes, which is why can I not produce the same power outside as I can inside? There's several different reasons why this might happen, and we're going to run through some of them. Okay, so first of all, obvious things, weather can definitely be a factor. So inside, you likely have a fan in front of your face, you might have a fan up top, you have a towel, you have air conditioning. That's all going to help keep your core body temperature lower. Over time, you're riding outside, you're in the heat, you're in the elements, core body temperature is going to rise, especially over the course of like a 2 to 3 hour bike ride, 4 or 5 hour ride. And so as muscles overheat, they're less able to produce power. So performance will suffer. That's one reason. Another reason can relate to nutrition and fueling. So it's a lot easier to fuel and drink and consume the amount of carbohydrates that you need when your stuff is sitting next to you on a stool. When you go out for like a 3 or 4 hour ride, you have to figure out not only how to plan what you need, but how to carry it, pick up extra water on the way. All those things have to do with being able to fuel the effort outside properly. And if you don't do that, that can also be a reason why. Another thing can be related to fitness, but also pacing. So let's say that you ride in the trainer a lot, you're used to just doing 1 hour rides, you don't do many rides longer than that. And then you go out and you're gonna do a 3 hour ride. Let's say you do some outdoor rides, but not very often. So there can be a fitness component with that. But more often, it a lot of times comes from pacing. So let's say you have some race efforts that you're gonna do, so like 10-minute blocks. If you're doing those within the first hour of your ride, and you think that the effort's gonna feel exactly the same as when you do those race efforts in the third hour of your ride, that's just not realistic. It's gonna feel different. It's gonna feel harder because of a thing called cumulative fatigue, which is what happens when you do a triathlon, where you have 3 sports done back to back. But cumulative fatigue also, it happens with longer distance bike rides, but also long distance runs. So over time, you're gonna be getting more fatigued because you're tired. You're trying to fuel yourself, maybe not doing a great job of it. You're going to progressively be getting dehydrated, even though you're continuing to take on liquid. Your core body temperature is going to rise. There's so many components that play into it. So the power that you can hold may change depending on the part of the ride that you're in. But another big thing that, a lot of those things, you can do things that you can impact. But one thing, which is the reason I wanted to make this video, relates to how you ride inside on the trainer. So this is a smart trainer where we take the wheel off and we put it onto, this is a Wahoo kicker. So we put it on the flywheel, okay? There are 2 different modes that you can use when, whatever platform, if you use Zwift, trainer, whatever other ones are out there. There are 2 different modes that you use on a smart trainer. You can use ERG mode or non-ERG mode. So ERG mode is basically the trainer is going to provide the resistance for you. So let's say you picked a workout and you need to hold this 140 watts for whatever time period it is. The trainer is going to essentially force you to hold that no matter what gear you're in, no matter how your cadence is, if it's really fast or really slow. So if you are pedaling really fast, it's going to decrease the resistance on the trainer, so you stay at 140. If you're pedaling really slow, it's going to increase the resistance on the trainer, so you stay at 140. Now, this can be great for doing strength work. So like when you're doing big gear repeats on the bike, ERG mode is great for that because you can really feel the full pedal strokes, your quads, hamstrings, and calf, and how it all works together. So it's great for doing strength work. And also, can be great for like simulated ride when you need to simulate riding up a hill, right? Because you have that consistent pressure to push against. So the thing is that ERG mode does not produce a realistic real world pedal stroke because ERG mode is providing resistance at every single part of the pedal stroke. That is not how you pedal in real life. In real life, you're going to have a higher spike of power at the outset. You're going to have a little bit less going back, and then over the top of the stroke, you're going to have even less. So your power, how you pedal outside in the real world where you're racing, is different than that. And so the problem happens is a lot of athletes, this is what I used to do. Like before I had my coach, like over a year and a half ago, I didn't know any better. My trainer was on ERG mode. It was just on ERG mode all the time. However, the problem is a lot of athletes feel like once they get outside, they cannot reproduce that power by themselves that they can do inside. And so if you only ride in erg mode all the time, that is not necessarily the best way to do it. So what is non-erg mode? That takes away the automatic resistance of the trainer. So non-erg mode, you're going to need to shift your gears. So you pick a course, so you're riding on this virtual course, and when there's, hills, you're going to need to shift your gears. You can adjust your cadence. You are essentially creating the power, right? So sometimes when you're riding inside and you have sections where you're going to be doing your race effort, whatever, sprint, Olympic, 7.3 Ironman, whatever, try turning erg mode off and see. It may feel much harder to reproduce that power, but that's going to be what you're doing outside. So a lot of people are different. I am someone who can produce higher power outside as opposed to inside. Now, does that mean we're going to automatically adjust my power ranges for inside? No, because inside is where I do the majority of my rides. So that would be not a good strategy. I just know that when I go ride outside, if I'm seeing 5-10 watts higher, that's okay because I know I push higher power outside. Now there's going to be people who are complete opposite, who they push, higher power inside, and then they go outside and they feel like they can't replicate it. So it's just things to take into consideration when you're talking about riding inside versus outside. Also erg mode versus non-erg mode. It's not that one is bad or one is better. It's you need to use both. So you can't just take one part that you really like doing and then not do the other part. You need to use all of them to be a well-rounded cyclist and triathlete. Also, one other thing that I didn't mention as a reason is drivetrain friction. Okay, so when you take the wheel off and you're attaching it to this flywheel, when you're producing power has to go from the pedal, from your foot, your leg, to the pedal, and then it's going to the crank, and then the chain, and then the cassette, and then it's being measured at the rear hub. So that you have some drivetrain friction. Some of that energy is going to get lost, okay? So you might see a little bit lower power numbers because of that, just slightly. But also, then you think about how the power is measured outside. Power is typically measured by a power crank or by your pedals. So it is measured at a much closer proximity to your body. So that can account for the difference also in the different ways that the power is being measured because you have two different systems. So moral of the story is there's several reasons why your indoor power might be different than your outdoor power. None of these are necessarily deal breakers. It's not a huge deal either way. So things to keep in mind when you do an FTP test, that's great, but it's a test. It's providing you with an estimate. So let's say you did an FTP test, you maybe did a ramp test, or you did a light test. You're looking at like a 43-minute test or a 32-minute test or whatever they are, like 20 minutes of work, okay? So can you see the challenges and limitations associated with basing what you can hold for a 70.3 bike, 3, 4, 5 hours, however long it takes you, or an Ironman bike, 112 miles, 5, 6, 7 hours, basing that on a 20-minute effort? That it's not, it is good to set training zones and to provide a baseline, and that's great, but you have to take it with a grain of salt. Also, the more you test, you're going to get better at testing. The numbers might change. Also, some days maybe some people are just bad at testing. I have a hard time with really high power. So some tests kind of tend to can underestimate my FTP because I'm not good at those really high numbers. So just when you think about power is a great tool for racing and training. Testing is also good. But if you're going to just have an obsession with a strict number, like this is my number I have to hold, there are problems with that because let's say that, oh, that's a cat. Let's say that your number you're supposed to hold for 70.3 is 140 watts. Okay, so let's say you go out and you're riding in the race and you see you're consistently holding 150 and you feel like that is the same effort you normally push and you're feeling great and that's good. But you're like, oh no, that's not my number. That's not what the test told me I can hold. I gotta slow down. So you might back off. You might not be riding to your full potential of what you can do that day because of your expectation of what you were going to do, okay? Now, it can go the other way too. So let's say that you are supposed to be able to hold 140 for the 70.3 bike, and you get out there and you're seeing 130, but it feels sufficiently hard. Like that feels like your 70.3 effort, but you're gonna push it harder because that's what the test said you're supposed to hold. That's how you end up bonking. That's how you end up overbiking. That's how you end up having a subpar run because you didn't listen to your body. So power can be great and all the metrics that we use. But something that I've had to learn over the years is using ranges. So not having a specific number, having a range that kind of swings 5, 10 watts either direction, because I need to go out and set in my head what that feeling feels like for that 70.3 bike when I'm riding. This is something you can practice. You can look at your range on your bike computer, say, okay, now don't look at it, and try to maintain what that feeling feels like and practice that in training. So then when you get into a race, you get locked in, you're like, this is what it feels like. This is what I have felt like for my training sessions. What that number says doesn't necessarily matter. Now, where power can be helpful is if your range is like 140 to 150 and you're seeing 190. That might not be a good idea. So for outliers, it's good. But just, I think where athletes get into trouble, where I used to get in trouble, was just like a strict obsession with just like a single number. And if I'm not doing it, I have to go harder. I have to back off. You have to go based off how your body is feeling and what it's giving you that day. So a couple strategies. Let me know if you have any questions. My coach was really great in explaining ERG mode and non-ERG mode to me. So shout out to Coach Crow of Try Marnie Beauty for being so excellent. And hopefully I explained it well. Oh yeah, I forgot. I always forget to do this. I've transitioned to another location because I have to do strength. But if you like these and kind of the explanations, the videos, go sign up for the Triple Threat Life blog newsletter. It's in the link in my bio. Comes out weekly. It's free. And you get things like this delivered to your email. And it's really cool. So go do that. I hope you like it.